Hi, this is James Valvis, and I'm going to be reading a poem today that originally appeared in Arts and Letters and eventually in my book, How to Say Goodbye, on page 66. It's a poem about waiting at a bus stop with my daughter, which was one of my duties as a parent, as her mother went to work early, usually well before sunrise, about 5 in the morning, to beat the traffic. In Seattle, the traffic is horrendous. And so it was my job to take her out there, and I did this for dutifully for all the years that she was a child until she eventually told me she didn't think her dad needed to be there with her in her high school years. I've already read one of those stories that came out of that time, The Bus Stop President. So this is a much more reflective story than that. That's dealt with a jerk that used to wait with us, and this one is a little more reflective than that. Anyway, it was published early in my return to writing for publication back after 2008, 2009. I quit smoking and then couldn't write for 4 years. I'd try to write, and nothing would cohere, nothing would work, and I'd get frustrated and stop. And for 4 years that went on. I literally had no luck at writing anything at all. And the very little that I did write was terrible. But in 2009, I began writing every day uh, as almost a religious activity. I would not allow myself to go a day without writing a poem. And I soon found that the stuff worked. It worked better than anything I'd ever written previously in my life. I'd taken a great leap forward in originality and talent and voice and skill and craft. And so the 4 years, apparently, I was percolating a lot of stuff in my mind, and it came out in one long stream of poems that really hasn't abated to this day. I'm still writing very prolifically and well. When I don't write nearly as religiously as I did then. I wrote every day, usually both poetry and prose every day, and I did that for several years. And the stuff began to appear in many journals, and journals that I couldn't even think about publishing it prior to this. And I was 39 years old at the time, and had almost no success in writing at all. I'd written a novel, and it was picked up by an agent, but then never published. And I'd written many poems, and some of those poems were published, but they were mostly published in obscure literary magazines. I could never get in the glossies and the better journals. And so when I got the two poems accepted in Arts and Letters, it was a big deal to me. And this was one of the poems that happened with. I was really excited, and I thought, wow, I'm finally doing some good work here, and eventually I would end up getting in places like Plowshares and places like that, really high end places, The Sun and Nimrod and you name it, a bunch of good places, and Best American Poetry eventually too. So, but at the time when I published this poem, it was very exciting. It's actually I published two poems in that issue, and I had a page opposite of David Wagoner, which I thought was just the biggest thing in the world. I'm a big David Wagoner fan. So, and he's a local guy here in Seattle. He's an icon in the area. So, it was a big deal to me to be on the opposite page. Valvis closely is V is close to W, so that's how we ended up next to each other. But anyway, let me read the poem, and it's called Cluster, and it appeared again in Arts and Letters, and I hope you like it. Cluster. Like a star, clustered, you huddle on a corner, 5 adults, 6 children, a dog, waiting for the school bus, this early autumn morning, filled with surprising warmth. Half awake, half aware, maybe half alive, you stand, and there you are, not regular you, but poet you, collecting this detail, that, your daughter's seahorse dress, the Mexican woman's tied shirt, the black that forms around the dog's gums. Also, this general happiness, yawning morning smiles. That you are allowed to note, but not entirely participate in. Not you, not poet you, who is ostensibly participant, but really cold as any neutron. As the bus arrives, kisses are kissed, and the small feet cross the tar, the first to leave the cluster. While the adults wave, one star shining brightly now, shimmering, until the bus departs, and the adults nova in all directions, heads down, trotting home, at last leaving only you, poet you, standing on the corner, waving at what is no longer there. This was James Valvis reading his poem, Cluster. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share this poem. And thank you for listening. And as always, God bless you.